Hi, this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a triple wrap bracelet using the Wrapit Loom. Now this is a really fun technique. We're actually going to be combining the original Wrapit Loom and the Wrapit Loom Professional Series Duo. So you can see on my table here that I actually have 3 tracks. Now in the original Wrapit Loom you'll get the 1 track, the 2 feet, and the end pieces. And in the Professional Series, you'll get 2 tracks to make that double wrap. But I found a really fun thing where if you already have an original, you can actually purchase the Professional Series and it's the same style track, so you can actually put them together to make a triple wrap. So that's what I'm going to be teaching you in this video here. So let's go ahead and start by putting our loom together. Now, all of the tracks have a male end and a female end. So very simply, just take and you're just going to start combining. So go ahead and slip it on there and just give it a nice little press. And it doesn't need to be flush because you don't need to worry about your slider going over that, but you can just kind of press it down there if you want. All right, and then I'm going to add 1 more track again. So we have 3 tracks in total here. Give that a nice little squeeze. All right. And now I have 3 feet. Let me get some of my items out of the way here. I'll go over what I'm going to be using for materials here in just a moment, but I just want to go ahead and set up the loom. All right, so I'm going to put one of my feet kind of in the middle there just to give it some stability. And then I'm going to put my other feet on the 4th little box there. You can kind of place them wherever you like. That's sort of the nice thing about this. But I'm just going to do it on both sides there. So now I have a really nice stable surface. And you can just take your slider end and slide that onto one end. And your other end here, we're just going to press that down onto that other male side. So it's that easy just to set it all up. So now let me go over what we're going to be making. And I have a little example here. And this I wanted to create just to have that nice little triple wrap, so it's a nice thin stranded. You can make this a wider strand if you want. You may need to adjust your materials just a little bit, but go ahead and have fun and just play with that. But what we're going to be using is we're going to be using a TierraCast button here. And I've brought out this nice little square one. And I have 6/0 union seed beads. Those will be nice and big and bright. For this, you're going to need 2 cards of Griffin silk, and I'm going to be using the size 4. And then I have the 1.5 millimeter leather cord, and I have 2 yards here. And I also have a pair of snips. You can use scissors or flush cutters for this as well. And I'm going to be using the GS Hypo cement. You could also use E6000 for this, and it'll work just the same. All right, and the very last thing that you'll need is a ruler to help you with your sizing. So if you have all of your materials, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing is to take your Griffin silk off of the cards. Now you'll notice that it has a little wire needle. So go ahead and take that off first. And you'll kind of just take it off the card there. And as you take it off, just give it a nice little tug. You want to kind of stretch out some of those kinks. And just the warmth of your hand and just that nice little tug will do enough for you. They'll still have some kinks, but you'll be all right. All right, so I'm just going to repeat this with my second card here. All right. And then the next step here is we're going to take that leather cord, and like I said, we have 2 yards. So all we're going to do is just fold it in half and find the ends, bringing the ends together. All right. And now take your little button, slide it on, keeping those ends together again. And now you're just going to slide it all the way until you hit the midpoint of your leather, just like so. And very simply, just take a overhand knot and wrap it around. Now, if you haven't used the Wrapit Loom before, we do have other videos that move a little bit slower. I'm moving a little fast. I know that, I want to get to the good part of how to set up your loom here real quick. But if you haven't used the Wrapit Loom before, we do have 2 other videos showing you how to use the regular Wrapit and the Wrapit Series Pro. All right. I'm having a little trouble with my knot there. There we go. You always got to pull the right cord. All right. So go ahead and get your knot nice and close to your button there. So just one simple overhand knot is all you'll need. And now I'm just gonna kind of judge based on my previous Wrapit here. Now, the nice thing about this is that there's a lot of ways to adjust the size. So I'm just gonna kind of show you what I did here. All right, so I only did my 2 knots on the end. So what I'm gonna do, and I'll show you exactly how long this is. Let me go ahead and measure real quick. So from knot to first knot, it's 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, about 21 inches. So that's what I'm gonna shoot for here. And I'm just gonna use my little prototype here as a guide. All right, so now you just move to that position and you're gonna make your overhand knot again. All right, and now before you really tighten it, you just wanna make sure that both of those cords are nice and taut together. And then you can just kind of give that a little extra squeeze. All right, I made mine a little longer. You can always go back and adjust it, but I'll keep going. So what you want to do now is you want to kind of judge how big your button's going to be, because it's going to need to slip through a little space there. So just move down and you're going to create another little overhand knot. Slip that through. All right, now this one you got to be careful of the placement because you don't want it to be too big, otherwise your clasp won't sit correctly. All right, I think that's probably pretty good actually. Let me just double check it before I give it a 1-2 tighten. There we go, that'll fit nicely. All right, let me just tighten that up now. Now, if you want it to be more adjustable, you can add further knots for the button to fit in various different positions, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave mine as is. All right, so now we're gonna finally get it into our loom here. I'm gonna move my other one out of the way. All right, so this is a very long track, but I'll kind of show you in stages here. So you're gonna wanna put the first one, and you can just give it a little squeeze here, slip your button in, and it'll close it nice and tight in there. And then we're gonna move all the way down to the other side here, and you're gonna place this in between the 2 knots. And I'll show you a different angle here in just a second so you can really get a look at it. All right, so you can see that I have it in between my 2 knots, just like so. All right, and what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna take my little slider back here and I'm just gonna pull it until it kind of catches and gets nice and taut. Now if you need to, I need to rotate my little cord there, just because you want your cords to be nice and separated, just like so. All right, so there we go. I have some good tension on there. So now I'm gonna direct your attention and we're gonna go all the way back up to the first half here. And what we're gonna do is we're going to take our 2 ends of Griffin silk. Now for each piece of Griffin silk, you're going to find the end without the cord, or I'm sorry, you're going to find the end of the cord without the needle on it, because we're gonna kind of tie those together here using a little surgeon's knot. So these are my 2 ends without the needles, and you can get pretty close to the ends, but don't worry, you'll have plenty left over. So go ahead and go down and around. And this is a very simple surgeon's knot. So you'll just kind of tie what then is an overhand knot up top there. So bringing those 2 ends together. And now taking your 2 tails, you'll just tie 1 simple overhand knot. All right, so now we should have a nice strong knot. Go ahead and give it a good little tug, make sure it's not slippery or anything. All right, perfect. So this is what you should have. So now I'm going to place one side of the Griffin silk on one side and one side on the other side. Now go ahead and slide that knot right up to the top, and it's going over the 2 pieces of leather cord. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down and around with our right side of our Griffin silk. And in the beginning, it'll feel a little tedious because you'll have a lot of that silk, but just be patient. And you're gonna repeat that on the left side. You should just go down and around with that side of the cord. And now what you're gonna do is you're just gonna kind of scooch it up, making sure that knot stays right in the center. You might need to kind of adjust as we go here. I need to kind of pull my tails out. There we go. All right, so I want it to be right in the center there. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tie a simple overhand knot. making sure to not get anything tangled. And go ahead and pull that all the way down. There we go. So I have my nice little cluster of knots up there, and don't worry about these tails. We're gonna clip them at the end. So if they're in your way, just kind of keep moving them out. All right, so now go down and around with the right hand side and down and around with the left hand side. All right, and now we're ready to begin adding our beads, making sure nothing gets tangled. All right, so like I said, we're gonna be using our union seed beads. So let me go ahead and pour some of those out onto my surface here. And I'm using this really fun Vitrail color, so it'll give us a nice little pop of color. So go ahead and string it onto the right hand needle and pull it across your surface here. And then take your left hand needle and you're going to crisscross, going back through the other direction. And what's going to happen is this nice little bead is going to find a little home right in between our two pieces of leather cord, just like so. And you can kind of go ahead and help them up there getting to the top. So that's it. That's the whole process. You just go down and around with one side and down and around with the other side. And now all you're going to be doing is adding beads and crisscrossing. Now you can do this on the needle, or you can kind of do it like I showed you earlier, where you just take one side and go through it one time. And eventually you won't have as much cord when you get a little bit further along. I know it seems like a lot that you're pulling through, but unfortunately you can't do this with one cord. So, all right, so there you go. So again, just repeat the same process, and I'm gonna meet you down further on the other side to show you exactly how to finish this off and take it off your loom. So I'll see you back there in just a few. All right, so I've added beads to most of the length of my bracelet here, but I stopped just shy about an inch or so from the end, so hopefully you can see that. And the reason I did that is because you can see that I've let the slack off. So if you're wanting to have your tension, all you need to do is just kick this little back piece and you'll let the tension kind of relax. And you'll want to do this for, I would say, overnight, but at least a couple of hours, because you've put a lot of tension on that leather cord. So what you need to do is just kind of let it relax, make sure that all your beads are nice and evenly spaced. It will kind of stiffen up. So you can sort of just run your fingers along here and just kind of adjust them. And the reason I want you to stop just shy of the end is so that you can figure out exactly how many more beads you need to add, because you may need to add 2 or you may need to add 3. But if you keep that tension the whole time, you'll end up adding probably too many beads, and then you'll have your work be a little crunched when you take it off the loom. So I've let mine relax, so I'm going to continue, and so I'm just going to readjust my tension so it's nice and tight there. And now I'm probably going to add maybe just another 2 beads here. So let me do that really quickly. And then I'm going to show you how to finish this off and end it. All right. There we go. And once you start to get towards this end, you'll probably need to use your needle to get your cord through. You won't be able to really stick your fingers through there anymore. But you can also see how much of that Griffin silk you have left over. So if you did want to make this longer, you can absolutely do so. It's very, very easy. Alrighty. I think maybe I can squeeze in one more, actually. So I'm going to do one more just to really tighten that up. Let me see here. Let me try to judge. So I'm just using that same technique of just going down and around. And yeah, I'm going to add one more bead. I thought I wasn't going to want to, but I think I do. So we're just going to add that final bead right there. Now in our other videos, we talk about sort of decreasing your work to get to that little notch there. But in this one, it's not a very wide piece, so you don't have to do that with these. So you can just use just that one seed bead. All right, so now just finishing this up, and let me just kind of rotate the work so you can see it a little bit better. So it's that same technique to finish it off. You just go down and through and you're just getting your needle down in there. All right, so I've just gone down and through once. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna take my 2 cords here and just tie a simple overhand knot, just one. And then I'm gonna take and go through and do that whole process again without adding another bead. And you can see that it gets really tight in here, so I'm just trying to make sure I get my needle in there. There we go. And repeat with the other side. Now you can sort of add as many knots as you want to make it secure. If you feel that it's slippery, that is entirely up to you. So I'm going to do 1 overhand knot, and this one I'm actually going to double knot. So give it a nice little tug and go ahead and double knot it 1 more time. All right, now I'm going to take my Hypo cement here, and I'm just going to use the little cards from my Griffin silk as a little stand. I don't want to get that onto my work surface here. Oops. And I had a little glue dry on there, so this will happen to your Hypo cement. I'm not too worried about it. Let me just get that off there. So I apologize, this won't be super duper clean, but you can see there's a needle in there, and I'm just gonna kind of dab it onto that little knot there. And I'm actually gonna use one of my little cards here just to kind of clean up that glue so it's not too stiff in there. There we go. And I'm just gonna rotate and bring up my other side here and just kind of repeat that process at the very top. All right, now like I said, you can use all different other kinds of glue for this. For this I am using the Hypo cement. And I'm going to need to clean up my glue piece later here to make sure that doesn't happen again. It just, that can sometimes happen with your Hypo cement if it's not properly sealed, and mine was not, so I'll have to fix that later. All right, so normally I would let this dry as is for probably about 24 hours before wearing, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on just really quickly so I can show you how it finishes up. So I'm just gonna trim off my Griffin silk here from both sides. And again, you can see how much of that Griffin silk I have left over if you wanted to make it a little bit longer. And just trim off that end as well. There we go. All right, so now you can just kind of open your little teeth there and slide it out. And the same on the other side. There we go. Now, let me get that big old loom out of my way. Now the last step here is to just judge your size. So you can see that you have all of this extra cord. And remember how at the beginning of the video I was telling you you could always make an extra knot or an extra knot if you needed it to be a little bit longer. So at this stage, before you finally cut this, wrap it around your wrist or your mandrel, whatever you're working with, and make sure that it is the size that you want. All right. Here we go. I'm just gonna wrap it around my wrist. All right. There we go. And that's just about perfect. So I like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up by leaving about an inch or so and cutting at an angle. I'm just gonna cut off those 2 pieces of that leather cord. So you can see how much you really have extra to work with. So that is it. That's how you make a triple strand bracelet. And now if you're making something a little bit wider, please be advised that you might need to adjust your materials just a little bit. But it's a really fun little technique and it produces a really great result. I think I'll probably be making some more of these using some metal beads or some other kind of metallic beads. And I think the little TierraCast buttons are perfect for such a thin bracelet. So there you have it. That is how to make the triple wrap bracelet using the Wrapit Loom. So by combining your Wrapit Loom and your Wrapit Loom Pro, you can create triple wrap bracelets. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos, please hit the subscribe button below.